Oops, I changed it. Hey everybody, nice to see you this morning. Thanks for joining us. Today we have an exciting presentation about cover letters. Amanda Deacons here from the WCC Career Transitions. Yes, we've changed the name, right? And she is a career advisor with them. And so she's going to go over some of the do's and don'ts and things you should include in your cover letter, which you will be working on because you have one to do yourself. So I'm going to turn it over to her. And then when she's done, we'll go over your upcoming assignments. So
thank you. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I wanted to say hello. I am going to turn the video camera off because it can be kind of distracting while we're talking about the slides that are on the screen. If you have any questions, please feel free to type them in the chat box. I'm going to actually prompt you with some questions as we go along, but I figured I would wave and say hello so you can actually see a face to a voice and have an idea of who you're actually listening to. So we're going to go ahead and get started. All right, here we go. All right, so cover letters. So many of you, I kind of played around with some of my captions on here just because of the fact that many of you get very anxious or scared when it comes to cover letters. And that's not something that we want you to actually be afraid of in any way, shape, or form. Cover letters are actually something that, whoops, sorry, I keep clicking. It's going through my slide. I apologize for that. Cover letters are not as difficult as you might think they are. And I know you have an assignment for their cover letter, so if you already wrote your cover letter, please feel free to take some of the advice that we're going to talk about today, do some edits. Hopefully you did your cover letter and it's absolutely fantastic and amazing and we're going to love it, but hopefully I can give you some advice and go from there. But we're going to talk about cover letters, and it's caution. You may become an expert after this presentation, which is what I am hoping. So the purpose of a cover letter, you're introducing yourself to an organization. It's your first point of contact, sometimes even before the resume, because a cover letter is usually included as the first document, and then your resume is included as the second document. So you want to make it engaging as much as possible because this is a prospective individual that you're going to become employed by, which means we want them to be enticed by you and your characteristics. So we're going to add a lot of different information in there. However, it's not a reiteration of your resume, and I'll go through that a little bit. It's also an opportunity for you to explain how you can contribute to the organization. So if you think more persuasion essay than letter, okay? It also helps you demonstrate some of your interest in the company. You're going to include some of that research that you did on the organization when you were writing that resume during the application process. So a couple of statistics for you. 1 out of 4 recruiters read a cover letter. Everyone asks me, do I have to write a cover letter for every single job? Well, 1 out of 4 is going to read it, but the thing is you don't know which 1 out of 4 is going to read it, so it's better to be safe than sorry. 53% of employers, so it's about the 50-50 split where some people prefer it and some people don't. It's that 1 out of 4 again. I usually tell people play on the safe side. I'm one of those cautionary individuals where if you've got a nice solid cover letter and you took the time to actually submit it and write it, then someone's going to read it. Now, this is a question for all of you, and it's a pretty simple one. You can type in the chat box a Y or an N to answer it, but should you use the same cover letter for multiple job applications? Go ahead and type a Y or an N in the chat box, and then we'll chat about it. I'm seeing a lot of no's. All right, looks like everybody answered no on that one, which is absolutely correct. Now, this is where I get to vandangle things a little bit, because if you have a well-written cover letter, you're only modifying it probably just a tiny bit for each job, because I'm assuming most of you are going to be applying for the same type of position in the same industry. to like companies. Now, if your cover letter is not designed to apply for those types of positions, then yes, you're going to be writing a completely different one every single time. However, you can make modifications on a well-written one, but this is absolutely correct. No, you're not going to use the same one. You are going to make adjustments as you go along. So what's it going to look like? I threw a picture up here of an actual cover letter from a student who was applying for an IT internship program. And I thought it was pretty well written because it was a very much beginner style cover letter. But once we start to talk about the components, we're going to break each one of these sections down so you can actually see some of the different aspects of it. But I wanted you to actually see a whole cover letter before we start to break it down. So here we go. Do you like my breakdancing pictures? I couldn't figure out what else to say for this one. And I wanted to make it fun and jazzy, so most of you can figure out what my personality is on this end. So first of all, it's a letter. It's a formal letter. You're going to have your contact information, the company representative's name, and the company's information. So name, company, position title for the person, phone number, email, company address. You're going to have all of that in there. You're going to have a date. You're going to have a greeting. It's going to have some paragraphs, and obviously you got to sign it at the end. The first paragraph, we're going to go through each one of these and dissect it. This is kind of my just housekeeping sort of slide to say, hey, here are the components, and then we're going to break it down. So let's start with the first paragraph. Oh, I'm going to back up a second. So before we jump to the first paragraph, these are three things that I found that people tend to get caught up on, and I call them the cover letter pitfalls. You do not want to start every single sentence with the word I. Remember, this is part of an application. You want to show the employer your capability using your English language skills. So if you're saying, I do this, I do that, I do blah, 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 it's not exactly the most professional writing sample you could give them. Same thing with the first sentence. So try not to start it. Actually, I'm going to say do not, absolutely do not start your cover letter with, hi, my name is, or I'm applying for the position title. Okay. Employers get hundreds of these cover letters at a time, and they are reading the same phrase over and over and over again. If you want to stand out, you got to make it pop, and I'm going to teach you how to do that. Same thing with some of the formatting. Try not to use contractions or abbreviations. Spell things out. So if you're going to Washtenaw Community College, spell it out. Don't abbreviate it as WCC. Contractions, I am instead of I'm, haven't, couldn't, the apostrophe T's. Try to avoid those types of things. All right, so first paragraph, we're going to dissect this. First sentence has to be some type of an attention grabber. Now, this is where your resume activity comes in very handy because you've already identified your characteristics, your skills, what you're good at, how you might be able to articulate what you're capable of doing. Now comes the part where you're researching the company and convincing them that you're the best person for the job. So you want to identify some of those unique characteristics about you to introduce yourself. So this person actually put in, as a passionate programmer and a motivated student to further my education in a challenging and hands-on environment, I spent the last year learning object-oriented languages, specifically Java, and I believe I'm qualified to join Nexient as an application developer as part of your 2019 summer internship program. Now, that is one sentence. It's identifying the individual as a motivated student. So it's saying, hey, I don't have a whole lot of experience, but I have a little bit. I also really enjoy the industry, so I'm a very passionate person. The challenging and hands-on, it means they're willing to take on tasks and learn as they go along. So you are actually implying some of your characteristics with some of your word choices. Now the second sentence down here starts to include some of your introduction piece of where you're going to school. So at Washtenaw Community College, I've completed multiple programming courses, which talks about your educational pursuits. And then it starts to talk about the exposure of some of the academic industry related positions. Now this person is applying for an internship program. They haven't actually had a job yet. So that career experience is replaced by academic project experience in the classroom. So if you're one of those individuals that you haven't worked in the industry yet, that's perfectly fine. Use your academic experience and refer back to that. If you have worked in the industry before and have held different positions where some of your career experience is relevant, you're more than welcome to add that in here as well. Okay, you're also going to use the employer's words really to make that connection with the employer. And one of those places you can do that is researching the website, looking at their vision, their mission, their value statements, what type of products or services do they provide. And this is going to come into play for the second paragraph. But first we're going to stop here a second because I want to reiterate something. So I'm going to have you answer this question. You're going to type your response into the chat box. What is the first line of your cover letter? All right, we've got attention grabber, we've got introduction. Anybody else want to weigh in on that? Introduction, intro. All right, fantastic. Now I'm gonna back up one because I highlighted it in purple on this one. I'm telling you, begin it with an attention grabber. The first line is your attention grabber / intro. Absolutely, positively have to have it. So great job, everybody. Now, second paragraph. Actually, I should stop for a second. I'm going to pause here. Does anybody have any questions about the first paragraph? Go ahead and type yes or no. And if you say no, we're going to go ahead and move on to the second paragraph. Okay, it looks like everybody's doing good as of right now. All right, let's dissect the second paragraph here. So remember on the previous slide, I was talking about that website, the mission, the vision, the value statement, the research from the company that you have already done. You can use a quote in your cover letter. You can identify some of the actual words. So if they value integrity or emotional intelligence, if they value communication, a specific work ethic, you can use that verbiage in your cover letter because you want it to match with the company, not only on a professional level, but you also want to connect with them on sort of their values as well, so that you can show them how much you identify with them as an organization. Okay, this second paragraph is where you start to give some examples. And if you have some measurable data, that's fantastic. So you can throw some statistics, you can throw ranges, a dollar amount, but you're not reiterating the information off of your resume. So you're talking about more of your technical skills in relation to your soft skills. Now this person went a little bit more soft skills. So they started talking about adaptability in the workplace, punctuality, accountability, a creative person, a team player, problem solving. Now, most of those are your soft skills area. You can also go a bit further with this paragraph and actually blatantly say that if you've had a position that identifies with the company, you can say, I've actually held this position and done the duties and responsibilities. And you can use the proper phrasing for that. Okay. So the second paragraph is really where you connect. Okay. Any questions on the second paragraph? Go ahead and type yes or no. I want to make sure everybody's doing okay with this information. All right, good deal. Everybody's doing okay so far. Fantastic. So here's our next collaborative question. What's the most important point to get across to the employer in the second paragraph? So go ahead and type your response there. Connect with their values. How your skills fit the company. Excellent. Why you would be a good fit for the organization. Wonderful. I think we're waiting for one more person to respond potentially. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and move on to the next one. So this is your last paragraph. This is your third paragraph. This is where, if you think of 3-paragraph essay, if you started with an introduction and an attention grabber, and then you talked about a little bit of what you're capable of doing, you have a thesis statement, which means at the end, you want to bring it all back together and you want to reiterate the fact that you're interested in the company and actually saying that you want an interview. So this person started out with, I believe I can positively contribute to your organization through my knowledge and participating in an internship program. Please feel free to contact me at. Thank you for your consideration, and I look forward to discussing my qualifications in a personal interview. The last statement is thanking them and actually saying, hey, I look forward to talking to you because you're going to offer me an interview. So it's a little bit more of a passive type of way to say, yep, you're going to contact me and I look forward to it. It's not using very aggressive language. You can also say something like, I welcome the opportunity to talk to you further about my, about my experience. You want to sound forceful and articulate, but you don't want to sound cocky with this one. You don't want to say, okay, I'm going to call you at 2 o'clock next Tuesday and we're going to set up an interview. That's a little bit too aggressive for a letter. I have seen people that do that, but they are in different types of positions. Sales individuals tend to do things like that, but even then they'll use a little bit less aggressive type of language to do it. So try to avoid that as much as possible. Now, I had said that you can include your contact information in this paragraph. However, it is optional. You can also say, please feel free to contact me at my information above, because remember, you're actually going to have your contact information at the top of the letter in some type of a heading, and then you're going to have their business address on there as well. So all contact information is going to be in there somewhere. All right. So this is another point that I want to drive home. So where can you find information to include in the letter to connect to the employer? Now, this is a very broad question. Please feel free to type your response in the chat box, and we'll talk a little bit about it more. Company website. Where else can you find information to include in a cover letter to help connect you to an employer? LinkedIn, great response, absolutely. What about other social media sites, online, in general? Good responses, everyone. I like these. These are really good. Other areas, if they have a Facebook page, if they have a Twitter page, you might be able to look up some newspapers. Fantastic, Lauren. Facebook and other platforms. So think about newspapers as well, because companies are featured in different articles. So they might have received an award, maybe in Crane's Business, maybe in Hour, maybe it was in Forbes. So you can find a lot of information on the internet that's going to help you actually connect with the employer. And the more you figure out about the company, chances are the more impressed the people are going to be. I've actually seen employers where they've come back to me interviewing some of our students and they said, I actually learned something about my company today that I didn't know because the person had researched them so much and they provided more information than they thought that they were going to find. So be that person, be the investigator. Okay, we're going to go through some examples here. Now, these are actual real people that wrote these letters, and I wanted to give you some ideas of what it could look like outside of your traditional 3-paragraph essay style letter. All right. Now, the first one on the left-hand side starts out with referencing the position, where they went to university, and then a little bit of their background. Okay. But you'll notice that this one has bullet points down at the bottom. So instead of putting the natural ability to conduct problems, demonstrating organization and scheduling, and the ability to deal effectively and efficiently with matters of high visibility and confidentiality, they actually took that from the job description, paraphrased it, and put it in the cover letter as 3 bullet points, because those 3 things were one of the top 5 categories that the employer was looking for on the job description. So they wanted to highlight those skills, and they ended up doing it in a bullet point format instead of a paragraph. So that's perfectly fine. You're more than welcome to do something like that as well. On the right-hand side, this person actually went a little bit further with the bullet points. So they tried to identify even more with particular topic areas on the job description itself. So here, this person is demonstrating actual evidence of roles that they had with organizations to highlight their experience. So they only took 4 areas and said, here's just a snippet of what I can contribute to your organization, because here are some of the things that I've already done in my industry, so that they can see what they're capable of doing. So I'm going to go to the next one here, because this is another example. Now, one of the other things that we got to talk about is, if you notice, and I'm going to go backwards one. So on both of these, I actually defaulted it to say, dear hiring executive or dear hiring manager. You want to address this to the appropriate individual. So if you can find out the customer, or not the customer service, if you can find out the HR recruiter's name, or the director or the manager of the department, you want to address it to that person. Have a position title on there, the company name, really personalize this. And somebody had actually referenced LinkedIn before, Alex. Alex had referenced it in terms of finding out more about the company. If you can find out who the representative is in the organization and address it to the appropriate person, that's gonna have a lot of weight when it comes to their decision. Because if it's something that's difficult to find, they're gonna want to know how you found them, which is a lot of fun. All right, now this one, if you look at it, this is actually 5 paragraphs, but it's very short ones, identifying specific areas, and then one pretty large area in the top that's connecting some of their experience with the company itself. Okay, so this is more of your traditional style cover letter. But you also want to think outside the box too, because the characteristics and the unique capabilities that you have, maybe you've traveled all over the world and you have international experience or international knowledge. Maybe you've been a supervisor or a manager since you were, I don't know, 15 years old. You may have some very unique experience that could connect to an organization. Feel free to add some of those things in there. It's the articulation piece and identifying what those characteristics are that can sometimes be difficult, which is where we can actually help you with that. In career transitions, a lot of people come to us or will send us their cover letter, and then we'll have a conversation either through like GoToMeeting or over the phone, or we'll do electronic edits via email back and forth, so that we can really hone and identify exactly what you want to tell the employer and how qualified you are. So feel free to use our services. We're more than happy to assist you when it comes to this stuff. Okay, so one last question. So what's one thing you should not include or do in your cover letter? This is the do not do section. Go ahead and type your response in the chat box for me. Use the word I. Correct. You can use I, just don't use it every time. Use I or abbreviations. Great, fantastic. All right, repeat your resume. No, we don't want to do that. Good job. Start with, I'm applying for this job. I love that one. I was hoping somebody would type that one in. There's nothing worse than reading the same sentence over and over and over and over again when you're a recruiter. It gets very boring very fast with 100 of them. Good, Alex. Do not ever demand an interview. I love it. Wonderful. All right, so this is where I'm going to pause for a bit. Cover letters, like I said, they're not as difficult as you think they're going to be. I know many of you probably already started on your assignment. Hopefully the information I gave you today was helpful, and hopefully you'll be able to identify a bit more in what you need to do in regards to it. The slide that had all of the breakdown on what to include in each one of the different paragraphs, that one I find students really, really like. So you have copy, I believe you're going to get a copy of this presentation after the recording, or it'll be recorded, so you can watch it again and get access to that. At this point, I would say if you have a question, go ahead and type it in the chat box. If you don't have a question, just type N, and we'll answer questions, and then if no one has any questions, we'll give it back to your professor, and then we'll go from there. All right, so it looks like everybody's good on their questions. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yep. All right, yeah, it looks like everybody's good on their questions. Nobody's got a question, so you're very welcome. Lauren typed a thank you, so you're very welcome. If you have any questions, if you need to come and visit us, we do have, like I said, virtual appointments. We do phone as well as GoToMeeting. So as long as you have a computer, you can actually use your voice option through your computer, just like we're doing now. You don't actually have to have a webcam if you don't want to. I tend not to turn mine on just because of the fact that it's very distracting when we're trying to have a conversation. I want you to concentrate on what we're talking about rather than looking at me and trying to, you know, hone your eyeballs into looking at the camera itself. Okay, so if you can't physically get to our office, please feel free to use one of our other virtual options when it comes to appointments. And I will let Megan have her class back. And if you need us, you have our contact information.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I will see you again soon.
Sounds good.
All right, everybody. So like Amanda said, if you have any questions for her, feel free to email me and I can send them to her, or you can email her directly if you are watching the video with your questions for the alternate assignment. So, all right, let's see. A little housekeeping. So everything through Unit 6, Module 2 should be complete. I'm working on grading the last few things that you've turned in. By tonight at 11:59 p.m., Unit number 6, Module 3 is due, which is creating that cover letter and the alternate assignment for those of you that are watching this video. If you've already turned in your cover letter assignment, like Amanda mentioned, you may want to go back and make some changes based upon the information she provided for you today. But if you feel like you pretty much did those types of things, you should be okay. Another thing is, feel free to go back. I've been grading a lot of the example resumes that you turned in. I've provided a little bit of feedback, and there's also a rubric there so you can see what areas you need to work on. If you want to redo some of those things for a better grade, you can upload a revised resume or a different assignment so that I can give you more points for that. So if you need more points, go ahead and do that. At this point, are there any questions on what is due coming up? If there are, please type them into the chat box. If not, you can put a no there. We're getting down to the last few weeks. And so it's important that you keep on track and try and get as many assignments done. Even if you're late turning something in, please turn it in for some points, because we only go through, I think our last meeting is May 1st. So we've only got a few weeks left. So keep up the good work. If you have any questions for me, feel free to email me. And I look forward to grading your assignments, and let me know if you need anything. If not, take care and enjoy your week.